Guys, I want to talk about goals. Now, last week, I sent you a video. Well, actually, 2 weeks ago, I sent you a video all about kind of a recapping my 2018. A lot of you emailed me back with your goal or how you did in this last year. And then I sent another message this last week while I was in the car driving, all about setting goals for the next year. And one of the things I mentioned, if you missed that, is it's so important to have a vision of where you want to go. You can't just set goals randomly for this next year without it lining up with your vision for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. If you don't have a vision for where you want your life to go, it's really hard to figure out if your goals this year are going to line up with that. So hopefully you guys have done that. I've actually received dozens of messages from people that have told me about their goals and their vision and what they want to do and where they want to be next year. And New Year's Eve, a year from tonight, today is New Year's Eve 2018, New Year's Eve 2019, where are you going to be? I told you that I want to be on a boat. I'm on a boat. I want to be on a boat smoking a cigar, drinking brandy with friends, and I want to be celebrating this last year. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about goals real quick. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit faster than I usually do. So first of all, you need to have goals. So you've got your vision set up, whatever that vision is. Like, I want to be self-sufficient. I want to run my own company. I want to, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be music. I'm into music. Most of my audience is into music, but I don't care what industry you're in. Doesn't matter to me. Have goals set up. Have your vision of where you want your life to be and set up your goals this year. Now, here's the thing. There is a quote I heard that says, and I need to make sure I say this correctly. Hold on just a second, because if I say this wrong, I'm going to screw it up. If you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any priorities. Now, the guy that said that, I'll put the quote down below. I can't remember his name, Jim something, but I love that quote. He's an entrepreneur, like an advisor consultant. But if you have too many goals, you really won't have any. It's very, very important to have very concise goals so that you don't overwhelm yourself, so that you have a very clear-cut vision of what you want to accomplish this year. So I actually have tons of goals I'd like to do, but I'm going to concise mine down to 3 things, maybe 4 if I can get away with it. So that's really important. Whether it's personal, educational, like you want to be more educated in music production, which is what I teach in the Triple Threat Artists course, or maybe it's money. You want to be have a certain amount of money by the end of the year, or making money currently, monthly. That's one of my goals, is to have a certain amount of monthly income that's coming in. Or it's service. Make sure you include service, giving back to other people. Sometimes your job includes service, and that's awesome. But sometimes your job is more self-serving, and you need to figure out how to actually serve the community or serve other people or your family or friends. That keeps your head level. Guys, you don't want your head to be too big because people don't relate to that. Trust me. I used to operate out of that, and I don't anymore, and it's changed my life. When I stopped thinking so much about myself and started thinking about other people, it changed my life. It's crazy how that works. It's kind of a universal law, though, and any bigwig or Tony Robbins type or Brendan Burchard will tell you the exact same thing. You've got to be thinking about other people. Okay, so now you're going to have your goals. You're going to set them in 3 to 5, no more than 5, really. After you do that, I want you to reevaluate those goals and double them. Now, let's say you said, I want by the end of the year to be making $5,000 a month in residual income or online sales or something. Double it. And then maybe quadruple it. Now you're thinking, why would I do that? That's not reasonable. We're not talking about reasonable. We're talking about dreams here. I want you to set your goals so high that you probably won't achieve them. I know that sounds crazy. That kind of goes against everything you've heard about not attaining your goals. But there's something magical that happens when you set your goals really high. You might achieve them, but if you don't, your results are going to be huge. If you set your goals like this, your thinking is going to be like this. And I don't want you to do that. I want your thinking to be above that. Okay, so think about doubling, tripling, quadrupling those goals. After you write them down, quadruple them. Or double them, whatever you feel comfortable with. Some of my goals I doubled, some of them I quadrupled, but I made them bigger than I think is attainable. And it's exciting and invigorating and scary as shit. Excuse my language, but it's very scary when you set your goals that high because you think, I'm going to fail. And you know what? You will not fail By you striving for that, even if you don't hit the goal, you are not failing. It's way more than not failing. You're accomplishing something. You're growing. You're stretching. You're getting out of your comfort zone. All right. So now you've got your goals. You've lined them up. You've got 3 or 5 goals that line up with your vision of a 5-year or 10-year plan. Here's the next thing you do. You write them down in big font. Go onto canva.com and make a cool meme out of it, or open Microsoft Word, make a PDF, whatever you got to do. Print that crap out. Print out those goals. 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever those big goals are. This is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be celebrating the striving of these goals for 2019 on New Year's Eve. Okay. Print it out. Laminate that shit. If you don't have a laminator, go up to Office Max. They'll laminate it for you. Or buy a laminator. They're cheap. I have one. I laminate shit all the time. Excuse my language. I'm passionate today. Laminate it and start putting it up. Make 2 or 3 copies. Put it on your mirror in your bathroom and say, these are my goals for this year. Put it in your studio. If you're like me, you have a studio. Put that up there. And here's the other thing. Make it as part of your screensaver, your wallpaper on your computer. So every time I open my computer for the last year, I saw my goals. Boom, right there in front of me. And I had 3 of them last year, and it was right there. I could not ignore them. And here's the other thing. You've got to be reading those goals daily. You've got to look at them and go, okay, well, number 1, I'm going to accomplish this year. Number 2, I'm going to be making this much money. Number 3, I'm going to grow this much. Number 4, I'm going to be serving the community or giving back in this way. And you look at those every day and you repeat those, and you don't have to be all weird about it. You don't have to be woo-woo. But it's what it is it's a reminder and get your head in the right space so that as you go forward throughout your day, you know where you're going. There's no question in it. There's no question in it. You know where you're going. You know what you got to get done. Okay, now you've got your goals. They've doubled. They've tripled. You've printed them out. You've posted them everywhere. The next thing is I encourage you to share them. Now, some of my goals personally, I can't share because there's a conflict of interest in doing that. And I don't want to go into all the details of it, but the ones I can share, I do. And I try to tell people, I have a goal of this. And they look at me like, okay, really? And I'm like, yeah, I have that goal. That's my goal for the year. It's crazy. What's the worst that could happen? You get a little embarrassed by the end of the year and you say, yeah, I didn't meet my goal. Who cares? That's not a bad thing. That is not a worst case. That's the worst case scenario is that you embarrass yourself a little bit. Who cares? It actually encourages other people. When you share your goals, other people are going to go, oh my gosh, Steve has these really lofty goals. I need to get my act into gear. And they're going to start building on that enthusiasm. And when you start finding out other people have goals too, you're going to start building community. And community is everything. When we touch other people's lives, when we come together as a group, as a clique, as a community, there's so much power in that. You're like on an inside group. You're an insider with some of the most successful and driven people. I love to be connected with people that haven't necessarily made it. They're not they're not VPs and presidents and CEOs necessarily. They're people that are striving. They're striving as an entrepreneur, or maybe as a mother, or they're striving as a spouse, or they're striving in their artistic work, and they're striving to be better than themselves, and they've humbled themselves into understanding that they're not the best, and they have room to grow, and they're driven. Those are the people I want to be connected with, not the people that have already done it, they've accomplished all their goals. Boring. I don't want to be around that. I want to be people with like-minded people that are struggling, that are in the trenches with me, because that kind of community is so invigorating to me and it's so powerful. And I got a taste of that this year. I have 2 or 3 friends now that are in those trenches and that are pushing themselves. And I freaking love it. I freaking love it. I would not change anything about that. Okay, moving on. So now you're sharing it. Don't be afraid to share it. The next phase, after you get this clarity, I want you to break out into your months and say, what do I want to accomplish in these months to reach those goals? What do I got to do? Break it into 12 parts, 4 parts, depending on you want to do it quarterly or a triad. It doesn't have to be 4 parts. It could be 3. 12 is divisible by 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever. However you want to divide it up, break it out and say, this is what I've got accomplished during this time. And then break out, how do I accomplish those little goals? Okay. So you may need to do some calendaring work, journaling work, But this is what we did. Again, what we did is we started with a very lofty vision about where we want to go. We broke it into this yearly goal that where we need to be at the end of 2019. And now we're breaking it into monthly goals. It's pretty basic. I know I don't mean to be talking down to you in any way, but it's so important to do this. Excuse me. The next thing I want you to do is figure out your organizational system. Now, some people use the Getting Things Done method. That's my method I use. There's a book that was written years ago called Getting Things Done. It's the boringest title in the world, but the methodology behind it is incredible. And it requires you to do weekly reviews to make sure you're on track and break things into these different projects. There's a whole system behind it. You can YouTube it and you can find tons of information on it. There are systems like Airtable. It's a really cool, a lot of my friends use a service called Airtable, which I'm going to probably be looking into. Or you might have an old-fashioned planning system where you just write things out. There's the 15-minute method, which is, I can't remember her name. I'll put a link to it below in the show notes. But there's all kinds of methods to getting things done and getting things done effectively so that you're on track to meet your goals, okay? The next thing I want you to really think about is getting rid of the distractions. You and I are so guilty. If you're anything like me, I don't want to accuse you yet, but if you're anything like me, you probably get distracted every time you pull up your phone and you start going into Evernote or your notes to look up something and you realize you have a message on Facebook and you click it and you're like, oh, shoot, Bobby Joe wants this document or he needs this file or he wants me to review this song or whatever. And you get distracted and suddenly other people's agenda is your agenda, which wasn't your intention. So there's some really good information about less distractions and how to organize your day so that you're doing the big things first and doing the little things last. Now, you've probably heard of the example of there's this YouTube video that was going around for a while that was a viral video for a while about a professor that was trying to fill this jar with different objects. He had golf balls and marbles and sand. And if you put the sand in first and put the marbles in and then put the golf balls, it never fit. But if you put the golf balls in first and then the smaller objects afterwards and then the sand last, it all fit in the jar perfectly because it filled in the space the correct way. Well, it's a great analogy for how you fill your day. So one of the biggest things I have learned in this last year is to stop looking at Facebook, email, text messages, whatever you have, any kind of message or inbox system. Don't look at that in the first hour of the day, maybe 2 or 3 hours of the day. That's other people's agenda typically. That's not your agenda. That's their agenda. And they're trying to get your response on something, which is important. I'm not trying to minimize that. But what I strongly suggest is you immediately, the first thing you do in the day is you take on the big tasks, those golf balls, okay, that would fit in the jar. And you say, what are those tasks that I need to do that are going to move the needle, that are going to move the needle for where I want to be at the end of the year? And you do those first. And they're usually harder. Those are usually the things you're going to avoid. If you don't do them right away, you say, well, I'll get to it later in the day. You won't probably do it. So move the needle every morning. Just move that needle a little bit. And then come back to doing those smaller items like, oh, I got to organize this, or I got to clean out this inbox, or take care of this thing at the house, or fix the faucet, or check my email, or whatever. You do those later in the day. Now, some of you have full-time jobs. Most of you do. I get it. But this applies to that as well. You can do this at your job. You can figure out those tasks, that the big ones that have to be done. It's such an important rule. It's really this is a subject for a whole nother video, so I won't get into that. But figure out a schedule and a planning system for you that's going to work this year, okay? If you don't get this till tomorrow or the next day, whatever, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be right on starting on day one. Don't be a perfectionist. Don't be anal retentive. Just get something started and accomplish something so that this year is the greatest year of your life. There's a lot of talk about this year, 2019, being a big downswing in the economy. Now, downswing years as an investor, as a businessman, as somebody that's an entrepreneur are some of the best years. And here's why. It's a year in which you get established. When you get established, whether it's an online course you're going to build or a company or whatever it is, you can do that for a lot less expensive, and you usually have more time on your hands on down years when the economy's in a slump. Those are the years that you capitalize on so that in the years of growth, that's when you make a lot more money. So if you're really set up by the end of this year, you could be making a lot more money in the years following. Take advantage of this down slump. Don't let it discourage you. Look at this as an opportunity. If that's true, I'm not an economist, I don't know, but there's a big prediction that this year is going to be a huge slump in the economy with the market, with real estate, politics, all kinds of things. So just think about that. So all of this is we're planning ahead. We're planning ahead. We've got a vision. We've got our goals for the year. We're breaking it down into a monthly thing. And now we've got a planner to do all this. We've got a calendar, however your system is. There's all kinds of great systems out there. Find the one that works for you and let me know. I'm always interested in new systems. Don't get into the trap of what I call productivity porn. Productivity porn is when you're constantly looking at productivity tools and you're not actually doing any work. You're just looking at new systems to do work. And you got tons of task lists and stuff, but you're not actually doing the work. Don't get in that trap. It's an easy trap to fall in. I'm extremely guilty of that. I love productivity porn. So I'm trying not to do that anymore. All right. Then last thing I want to say is after you get organized and you get moving, as you move into this year, I want you to relax. Think of your life as like a canoe. I heard this in a podcast the other day. It was so brilliant. When you get in a canoe and you're paddling, every once in a while, if the river is not going the way in which you're paddling, you sometimes need to pull your paddle up and let the river just take you for a little bit. Because oftentimes the river represents the systems we have in place, whether it's capitalism or the economy or whatever is the systems in your life that are taking place. There's so many things out of your control. There's only so much control you have. And everything we're talking about right now is a control, is a paddle. But sometimes you got to pull that paddle out and let the river take you a little bit. It is incredibly important to allow yourself the flexibility to move with the river. Because when you have the momentum of the river on your side and you're paddling, you are going. You are booking it down that river and you're going to get there in no time. So it's really important sometimes to relax, pick the paddle up, don't control everything. It's great to have controls in place, but it's really good to know when to let go. And just let the river flow. And if that's a spiritual thing to you, if you're talking about God and how he moves, or maybe it's the universe, or however you think of God, allow that to be part of your life this year. And that may completely take you in a different direction. And you know what? That may be the best thing in the world. But I highly encourage you to have a vision, have goals, have a direction before any of this happens, so that before you pick your paddle up, you have a direction going. Because you might find that direction's already going in the direction of the river, and you won't know that until you start paddling. Have you ever heard the analogy? It's really hard to move a ship if it's not going. Or think of a car. You can't turn a car unless you're moving, right? So get moving, get your car moving, and then you can start turning the wheel and go in the direction of the road. Or in case of a boat, it's a river. Okay, I think that makes sense. Lastly, I want to just let you know that I use a tool. I have gone from, in the last year, I've gone from not having a monthly income because I'm an entrepreneur and I was pursuing music and I was trading time for money. Anytime I made money, I'd have to trade time. And I've completely changed my business into where I now have an online school. And yes, it requires a lot of work, but I absolutely love it. And it builds money. And now I'm making a living full time doing something I love as an entrepreneur, and I'm teaching a subject that I'm very passionate about that lines up with my other goals. I want to encourage you, if you have any interest in this, to think of doing the same thing. Even if you have a full-time job, I don't care what field it's in, if you're into quilting, if you're a parent, if you're into artistry, if you do pottery, if you do home decor, if you love Christmas decorating, it doesn't matter. If you build an online course and start teaching people what you love and what you're good at, I bet right now you could stop and write down 3 things that you probably know more than most people on. Just some subject. When I first started into music production teaching, I didn't think I was qualified. And I kept feeling like I was an imposter. Like, I haven't done this for enough time. I was never the producer for Katy Perry or whatever. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I realized I have a lot I can give. And it's because I'm much more advanced than 90% of the people that are singer-songwriters in production I'm talking about. And so I can help those singer-songwriters get their songs on the map. So I built a school and I had some help doing it. And one of the biggest help I got is through a tool called Kajabi. And if you're looking to do this at all, please, please, please use the link below. You'll get a discount on it. And I'm full disclosure, I will get a kickback if you use it. But it doesn't cost you anymore, and you'll get a 30% discount by using my link. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And this is why I use Kajabi, because I looked into other tools. There's a tool called Teachable that's very popular. There's ClickFunnels, there's Squarespace. There's a lot of different web-type programs out there that you can teach things and sell products. The reason I use Kajabi is because it's a one-stop platform. You build all your email lists in there. You send all your emails through it. You build databases. You can do your blog. All your websites are on it. You can buy the domains through it. You keep track of all your people. It does all your payment systems for you. It has affiliate programs. You can do subscriptions. You can do coupons. You can do offers. It is a all-in-one platform. It's unbelievable. And I don't say this because I'm trying to fluff it up in any way, but honestly, even if you don't use my link, I would use Kajabi. So even if I make no money on you ever using Kajabi, I highly recommend Kajabi. It's a weird name, I know, but they're doing a sale right now. If you get it right now, if you just engage right now and commit to it. And I did this last year. I signed up. It was actually about a week before the New Year's. And by the February 1st, I had an online course ready to go, and I started getting money. And people started paying me money to be part of my course, to be part of my subscription service. It's incredible. This video is more about goals, but if you want to know more about that, let me know, because I'd be honored to help you get your online business going. I have done that for other people already, and they're making money at it. That's it, guys. I know this is a little bit long, a little longer than I thought, but I have a lot to say. Goals are so important. If you have any questions on Kajabi or setting goals, or just want to talk about stuff, or you're interested in my class, the Triple Threat Artist Producer course, where I teach singer-songwriters how to produce their own music, please let me know. I would love to help you. I can't wait for this next year. I'm extremely excited, as you can tell. And I'll see you next week. All right. I'll talk to you later.